Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Franchising Matters video series brought to you by Reshift Media. My name is Steve Bjors, and I'll be your host. I'm joined today by Andrew Mitchell, who's the CEO of Storyteq Asia Pacific. Andrew has been advising franchise brands on marketing and marketing technology for over 15 years. Andrew was awarded 2 Cannes Gold Lions before starting his marketing software company called Brand Machine in 2012. Brand Machine built an impressive portfolio of franchise and other multi-location businesses and was acquired in 2022 by UK communications group Team ITG. Brand Machine was subsequently rebranded Storyteq. Andrew remains CEO of Storyteq Asia Pacific and continues to advise franchise brands on the technology they can employ to improve their marketing operations. Storyteq's franchise clients include McDonald's, Pret, Anytime Fitness, Pizza Hut, KFC, Costa Coffee, Poolworks, and many, many more. Welcome to the show, Andrew. So happy to have you here.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. Stoked to be here. Good to chat.
And we're talking to you out of Australia today, is that right?
No, actually, Auckland, New Zealand.
Oh, you're in New Zealand. Okay, I see.
Yeah,
I know you deal in all parts of Asia Pacific there, so I had my locations wrong.
we do. We've got some people in Australia, but most of our team are based here in Auckland.
Very nice. Now, let's start with Storyteq. So it's an interesting company, huge client base. For listeners who might not know the company, you mind sharing a bit of information about Storyteq?
Yeah, we sort of started the business with the goal of helping franchise businesses sort of solve that age-old problem of getting local marketing content created. You know, franchisees in a lot of categories are often needing to run events, run local ads, drive local promotions, and historically it's always been a problem. You have this kind of lose-lose scenario where either local franchisees might use a local designer or, heaven forbid, Word on their laptop or something.
Microsoft Paint.
And you end up with very sort of off-brand communications locally. Or the flip side of that, if some franchisees will use a more centralized model, requests always have to go to head office to get local creative and content produced, and that central marketing team just start drowning under the weight of having to do all these little local requests, which obviously they're important to the local franchisee, but they're not necessarily kind of the big strategic initiatives that you want your marketing team focused on to move the brand forward in a big way. So, this was something I noticed working with franchise brands during my advertising career. And we set about, as I was coming towards the end of that career, had the idea of, creating a platform that would solve this problem, really. And we developed a solution that we call brand portals. And brand portals allow local franchisees to log in, access all those kind of marketing assets that they might need for social and whatnot, images, logos, and so on. But probably more importantly, we've got this very sophisticated template technology which allows users to create and localize marketing content, but they can't break the brand. The templates are set up in a way that that compliance and that design quality and consistency is always assured, which is really key. We can set up approval workflows if brands want it. So, the marketing team can kind of have that helicopter view of everything that's being created in the local market and lots of reporting around that. We connect to printers and merchandise companies so that things need to be produced. We're getting away from this whole emails and phone calls. Hey, I need some stuff printed. The workflow is all automated through the platform, which so we're saving head office a lot of time, and we're saving franchisees a lot of time, and it works really well. We've got some clients that have been on our platform for over a decade. In the last 12 months, we've also climbed into creative automation, and creative automation is a little bit different. It's more at a head office level to be able to scale your production of content. So you might want to do a social tile or a video that's unique and localized for every single franchisee. We're able to basically create 50, 100, 500 videos at the push of a button by being able to merge, data which holds kind of the dynamic information, if you like, with the master template that our team builds or the client's team builds, and we can just literally batch create hundreds of pieces of content. Also really handy if you've got content that has to change really quickly. Like I've heard of an example in Europe whereby this tech is used for menu boards of a large QSR, very well-known QSR that everyone will know. And if the local football team wins the game on the Friday night, at the push of a button, they're able to change all the pricing on their digital menu board and video boards because they know the people are going to come in really happy. They're going to be in a celebratory mood. They're going to want to buy lots of food. Demand will be high. So why not put the prices up and increase profits? So those sorts of applications are really interesting, being able to just change digital content in real time.
I love it.
So we're really excited about that, seeing a lot of growth in that space.
I love that. I loved everything except that last example as a consumer, but that's great. Well, and the scalability from a franchise perspective, I love that. I'm sure franchise organizations love that ability to still, as you said, manage the brand and make sure that the brand stays, as it should, while having that flexibility to have localized creative. That's great.
Yeah, no, it works really well.
Well, so let me ask you, Andrew, as someone who, is in the Asia Pacific region, works with retailers and franchise systems across a broad array of categories, what do you see that franchise systems should be keeping their eye
on? I think creative automation actually is a big one, not just for franchise brands, but probably any brand that has to produce a lot of content. And I think retail and franchise are good examples of that because, as you know well, with the Reshift business, we're just being swamped as consumers by so many messages in a day now. And I think if we keep running the same marketing programs that we've run for the last kind of 5 years, we're going to get sort of diminishing returns because we're just, not going to get the cut through all of that noise. So, I think it's really important for brands. They've got to produce more content, right? Because they need to be more local. They need to be more targeted to specific customer segments. They need to, be more real time to really get people's attention, as we talked about earlier. But to do that, we've got to produce way more content, right? But the challenge is that budgets aren't getting any bigger. Our internal teams aren't getting any bigger. So we're kind of at this sort of uncomfortable point where we need to move, but we haven't got the resources. And the only way you can really kind of close that gap back down is through automating the content production. So, I do think it's a key area that brands need to look at.
I would agree, right? The days of taking a TV commercial and throwing that up on social media, you can see those are gone, right? The whole form factor on TikTok, as an example, which obviously skews much younger, is so different. The style of video production is so different. So people's expectation in terms of how they're consuming media in a social or a local aspect is just so different. So I agree with you. The days of, sort of a one-to-many messaging strategy are clearly being less effective, whereas I'm not going to say one-to-one, that's way too specific, but a one-to-few. And I think that's well said in terms of how creative teams are. You can see it. They're trying to figure out the formula to do that. And everyone's talking automation these days, right up to Meta and Google and TikTok and all those companies are looking at it as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, so as you're looking at that and as you're looking at the industry, do you see any red flags? Do you see any concerns that franchise companies should be on the watch for?
I just think keeping up with all these changes is the hardest thing. It's like, if you just look at what Google and Meta, for example, bring out in terms of new tools, new advertising types in a calendar year, like even just keeping up with that and understanding how you can implement it for your brand is quite tough. So I sort of think, a lot of franchise brands run quite lean in terms of their teams. They're obviously often spread quite thinly. And I do think brands actually just need really good advice from the likes of companies like Reshift and other top agencies around the world. They need some advice. They need some outside help and going, okay, what's going on out there? What should we look at in this calendar year to try for our business? But so there needs to be kind of a program, I guess, of continual exploration and testing, if you like, and find out what works, but definitely not just rolling out what you did last year. But it's hard to do that, right? Because people have their BAU tasks that they've got to do, whatever that is, each week and each month. But got to find time for, I guess, that sort of innovation piece and that exploratory piece in terms of how we're going to move our brand forward in 2024 and 2025.
Well, it's well said, and as you said, it's almost a question of which ones do you do, right? So this year, everyone's talking TikTok and short form video. People are talking automation and AI. Next year it's going to be something different. The year after it's going to be something different. And to your point, all of the platforms are pushing out so much that's different all the time. So making sure you're diligent in terms of one, staying up to speed, as you said, so important. But which ones do you even undertake, and how much budget do you allocate towards them? Like, you got to be ready to have a few losers in order to find a few winners, right?
Yeah, and it's quite surprising having meetings with quite big brands that haven't even heard of, the latest ad suite that Google's released or whatever. And you go, well, that's got really strong application for your brand. Some of their automated tools and localization tools. And you go, oh yeah, we should possibly look into that. And I'm just like going, wow, that's amazing that you don't know about that and haven't tested it already. It's been out for 12 months.
It is funny, for anyone who's listening, who's maybe with a smaller franchise system or brand, I see digital as a great equalizer, because you said it well, Andrew, even the big brands can't keep up. Even the brands that have, big agencies behind them or big marketing teams, there's just so much change that it enables smaller franchise systems to really still be competitive from a digital perspective. The ability to target and segment, be local, as you've mentioned more than once here, Andrew, really gives all brands the opportunity to be successful. And everyone seems to think that the big brands got it all figured out. And I agree with you. When we talk with big brands, I'm often surprised at the fact that they're not aware of the things even available to them.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, and so on that, if there's something out there that you think people should be talking about but aren't, what would that be? So is there something lurking out there, or is there a big opportunity maybe that you don't hear people talking about, but you're thinking to yourself, hey, that could be a big opportunity?
No, it's like, it sort of comes down to the core of what you guys do with Brand Amplifier and what we do with creative automation. I still think localization is massively underplayed, particularly in the digital space. It's I know you and I are talking about it every day, right? So we kind of possibly get a bit sick of it, or think everyone else is talking about it as well. But I'm sort of staggered that quite large brands are still doing generic, most of their digital work is generic, nationally based campaigns, where we know, particularly post-COVID, getting engagement at a community and local level is so key, So I think, things like Brand Amplifier are just so valuable. And, as you know, we've actually recommended it to a lot of our clients, and it's gone fabulously well. And we think there's a potential to take that concept to the next level by localizing the visuals as well, right? More and more people don't read. A picture tells 1,000 words, all that sort of good stuff. So I think the next frontier of localization is localizing the visual. And that's not something anyone's talking about because they don't think it could ever be remotely possible that every franchisee could have their own localized video. That wouldn't even come into conversation because how is that even possible from a production and cost point of view? So, I've probably repeated myself here a little bit, but I think that is an exciting space that will help brands get engagement. And I think like politically within a franchise group, if franchisees can see that they're getting their own personalized content created for them that is either, the media is either set up at head office or they're able to use in their local market and their own local social channels. I think that's quite exciting for franchise brands.
It's interesting you say that because, we've often thought the same thing. What is the impediment to franchise companies really understanding localization on digital? Because frankly, that's what a franchising model really is. Like franchising at its core is setting up systems and processes and branding and replicating it. That's what franchising is at its very core. And so it is interesting to watch a franchise brand take a generic TV commercial and simply just run it as is without thinking about the replication opportunity and the localization opportunity. And do you think that's it, Andrew? Is it just that franchise companies just don't know that it's possible yet? Do you think that's a matter of time and energy or attention or education?
I just think the first reaction is that's not even on the table. If you don't know, if you don't know a piece of technology exists, then your thinking kind of doesn't even go there.
It's like sorcery.
Yeah. So it doesn't get considered. And if you can unblock kind of what would have been previously a manual process, I think, in any part of marketing, suddenly your strategic options become so much greater, right? If we're not limited by production budgets or the resources of the in-house team, okay, what do our strategic options look like? It's like a fresh, clean whiteboard, but you never go there if you don't know the possibilities that the technology allows. And I think that's true, right across the MarTech landscape these days. So, again, it comes back to a marketing team just being disciplined about spending a certain percentage of their time exploring what's out there, exploring what some of the leading brands are doing and how they're using technology. I think it's really key.
Well said. So, as a parting thought, Andrew, as we kind of bring some threads together here, do you have any advice or insights that you'd like to share with people? Anything you've observed that you want to impart Andrew's wisdom upon people?
I've actually just got a book that I think people would find really interesting. It's written by a New Zealand author, Owen Eastwood. It's called Belonging. And I'm halfway through it and I'm quite blown away. And Owen is a consultant who's worked with a lot of top businesses, but also a lot of top sports teams, such as the All Blacks rugby team. Hopefully a few people have heard of them. Manchester City football team, some of the big baseball teams in the US. And he also comes from an anthropological point of view, like at our kind of heart as humans, the drivers that create this need for us to belong and to follow a cause and a purpose. And he just writes about the subject in a really fresh and interesting way. And I think it's so appropriate for franchise businesses, right? Because we all know getting franchisees pulling in the same direction and trying to achieve a common goal can be a bit like herding cats. So I think we can't consume enough of these different sort of angles and information on how we can create purpose and a sense of belonging for our brands, particularly a franchise brand. And I think there's some thinking in there that could be really helpful to franchise owners and franchise marketing teams. I really recommend it. It's Belonging by Owen Eastwood.
Perfect. Thank you. And a New Zealand author to boot. That's fantastic. I love that.
That's the one, but very much written for a global audience. So, I think people will really enjoy it.
That's great. Well, thanks, Andrew. And I appreciate you sharing your time, your insights, your ideas. Thanks to everyone who listened in today. If you haven't done so, I encourage you to click the like and subscribe so you can stay up to date with all of our episodes. Thank you again, Andrew, for your time, and I hope everybody has a great day.
Thanks, Steve.